The voice of no. I have that voice. No need to be contrary. I put on a face. No use for muscle. The workers stand online for hours. No need to read. 24 hours of the shopping channel. No fire. We have the illusion of doing what we want. Is that any way to talk with your tongue pressed against glass? The TV set is barking this Sunday morning, off when we acquire an instant memory and round language where the ends justify the ends. We rummage among the many unplugged connections looking for that darn fraction of a percent of the landscape you say it is possible to live in. Who will miss it when we divide up the sun, devour the young rather than give up our good seats? The postcards are bought out. The LP is skipping. And anyway, rescue is sure to be slow. In place of a raft, we paddle ladders past the litter of drifting bodies.
Wow. Okay, Lainey, would you tell us your questions about this, and then we'll turn to Erica, Irene, Gabby, and Jake for any kind of responses.
Sure. So what is the voice of no, as suggested in the poem? And breaking that down a little bit, how is the voice of no instructive, useful, survival, or needed in the now of the poem and also this now? So what is the voice of no as suggested in the poem? How is it possibly instructive, useful, survival, needed in the now of the poem and this now? So starting with Erica.
I mean, it seems to me like, it's sort of the internal monologue. So looking even at the very first line, it's no need to be contrary. I put on a face. So the face is, that which is not contrary, even if the I is feeling contrary. So it strikes me as, again, like, it's what one really wants to do, but maybe is not happening externally. But then there's a way in which in the second stanza, it becomes a lot more complicated. And that's, I guess, where I need a little more time to think.
Seems like a different tone. Is that any way to talk with your tongue pressed against glass? It sounds like a parent talking to a child. And that voice of no, I mean, those of us who've parented children have that voice. Mm-hmm. No, you can't put your tongue on that glass. Don't do that. Mm-hmm. That's a different voice of no. This is really hard. Okay, I think Irene is up.
Yeah, I mean, I just was like thinking about the no, because, I mean, is it a powerful and interesting word? Like, there is this kind of parenting voice saying all the things you cannot do, but there is this no also saying, no, I'm against something. And I find super interesting how, even if it's the voice of no, we start with the no and we kind of lose the no. It's like very, very present in the beginning, and finally it's like there's no in the beginning, and then it's like the voice what remains. Mm.
Wonderful, thank you. Let's go to Jake.
I for some reason just going through the poem, the early lines, like cadence of those lines, I was thinking about, revolution will not be televised, except here it's kind of like there's no need, like your life will be televised on a shopping channel all day long. There's no need for your voice here. There's no need for thought. You can be constantly busy with all the media, all of the information that is being fed to you. There's no need for you to speak or say anything, but just to be a passive recipient of what's going on. And then so the voice of no means two things. Means like don't speak up, like you have no voice, but also say no to that very thing itself. And I was really struck by that record. Is the LP is skipping line. I mean, it's just like a tiny image, but it's like the thing the needle got stuck in the groove, and it's like nothing is going on, nothing is happening. There's nobody to like just push the needle so that music continues or life continues. It's just like stuck in the same groove over and over again.
Wow, thank you so much. Let's go to Gabby.
I feel like I'm going to fail to answer your direct question.
That's
but
perfect.
I think
Say
I'm gonna
no.
go- So, okay, like the thing that strikes me about this poem, especially its last stanza, is I feel like it's about the myth of upward mobility. That, you know, with a particular series of actions, one could kind of climb out of the muck and live a livable life. You know, that kind of good life or whatever. Like that feels to me like it describes the last image, the paddling with a ladder, where instead of like you get this thing that's supposed to bring you upwards, but the only thing you can actually do with it is move sort of horizontally, like holding onto your ladder as if it was going to really take you there. And so it feels like there's that thing that like that myth of upward mobility is actually not going to get you where you think it is. Your faith in it is maybe actually keeping you down in a way. And so the reason I'm saying I think I'm failing to answer your direct question is I don't really quite know what someone is saying no to. But I don't know. That's where I'm.
Well, I love that. I wanted to go to the end of the poem too, because I feel like there's change happening. It's not always the same no, and I don't think it's just one voice. But what you just articulated, Gabby, about this myth that isn't true, I feel like that's one answer to the question of what is being said no. There's a refusal to accept that narrative about what kind of a life you can have if you just strive, right? So if we start out with a no that's kind of personal, like a person putting on a face for whatever reason, or speaking to a child, and then we're moving out into global situations and we're seeing people drowning. When I revisited it today, I was thinking about Hurricane Katrina, but this poem was written in 1996, so that's...
I too read Katrina here, but it was written before Katrina.
Exactly, yeah.
But, you know, there's a disaster, and there's some kind of disaster and some kind of dystopia. And in my conversations with Erica about this poem, Erica Hunt, we get to a kind of racialized unfairness at what kind of protections are set up, the safety net. And the safety net at the end, in place of a raft, which is what you need when there's a flood, we paddle ladders against the litter of drifting bodies. It's a really horrible, sad scene as a result of resources being sent in another direction. What's your quick answer to your own question about the voice of no, Lainey Brown?
I guess my quick answer is that what's being said no to is many things, and so there's a movement from the personal to the political, and so the voice goes from personal to kind of omniscient, like we don't know who's talking in the end, so it seems to move.
We all recommend Erica Hunt's poetry. All of us do. It's remarkable. This is an early poem, but there's many fabulous recent poems, and ModPo Plus has a good representation of them. And I think the strategy you just described happens in almost every one of the poems. It's very personal. It's also very political. And we often move from the personal to the political.